How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, October 24th, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Jalen Ramsey. The elite starting cornerback for the Los Angeles Rams turns 27 today, and my intention with this episode is, of course, to shine light on his accomplishments, his achievements, and his accolades that he's been able to rack up from the moment where he was starting on the field for Florida State and, of course, to where he is right now. Jalen Ramsey at this very moment at 27 is a 4-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time first-team All-Pro player in the NFL. There have been 2 distinct seasons in which he's proven himself as one of the 2 top corners in all of football. And over the last 4 years, he has consistently shown that he has played at Pro Bowl level, and there is no way that it looks like he's stopping right now. Just to give a glimpse at the type of player we're looking at, he's standing at 6'1", 208 pounds, incredibly physical defensive back, of course, can run with any receiver, and of course, he's a very lockdown corner in his own right. Many people argue that Jalen Ramsey is, in fact, the best player at his position, and the way he's been playing this year has been no exception. He has not deviated from his normal course of playing like one of the best, playing like the best cornerback in all of football. And without further ado, I'm just going to go back and give a little bit of context into the player that is Jalen Ramsey. So he's originally from Smyrna, Tennessee. He would eventually find himself being one of the best prospects in all of Tennessee, and he would find himself committing to play at Florida State. He would go on to play at Florida State for up until his junior year. His very first season that he would play would be the 2013 year, which would go on to be his age 19 season. In his age 19 season, Jalen Ramsey, as a freshman at Florida State, would go on to play all 14 games in a season where Florida State would finish by winning the BCS National Championship game under Jimbo Fisher. This is when they beat Auburn in the Rose Bowl. This is the only time that Jimbo Fisher had won the national championship at Florida State as the head coach. And in that national championship season, Jalen Ramsey played all 14 games. As a defensive back, he would finish with 49 tackles, the least amount of tackles he finished with in a season in his 3 seasons at Florida State. He also finished with a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and he did go on to finish with an interception, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. In 2013, he would go on to be named a BCS national champion, and considering he was a starter at Florida State as a freshman, he was the first true freshman to start at corner for Florida State since Deion Sanders, which should have been an omen right then and there that he was able to hold down his position as a freshman. Following his freshman season where Florida State won the championship, he would go on to start all 14 games of the 2014 season, his age 20 season, in a season where the Florida State Seminoles finished with a 13-1 record, all resulting in them losing the Rose Bowl game against the Oregon Ducks in the semifinal game, just to give a sense of how that game fared out. But in a season in which Florida State almost went right back to the title and won it, Jalen Ramsey would finish with 80 tackles in the 2014 season, by far the most tackles he'd ever put together in a season. He would also finish with 3 sacks, the only season in college football in which he finished with at least 1. He finished with 10 tackles for losses on the season, which was also a career high. He had 2 interceptions, which was also a career high, and he would not record an interception at Florida State after his sophomore year. He would also force 3 fumbles. In 2014, Jalen Ramsey would go on to be named to the first team All-ACC, and he was a second-team All-American. So of all cornerbacks in college, sophomore Jalen Ramsey was at least the 3rd or the 4th best cornerback in all of college football. Following his sophomore season at Florida State, which saw them almost win the title, Jalen Ramsey would come back to Florida State for his junior season, which of course he had to. He will go on to play 13 games for a Florida State team that would finish with a 10-3 record, losing eventually in the Peach Bowl to Houston. But in his third consecutive double-digit win season, in the 13 games he played, he would finish with 52 tackles on the season. He had 3.5 tackles for loss. He had a sack, and he would also go on to recover a fumble, 36 yards for a fumble recovery touchdown. In 2015, although Florida State did not make it to the college football semifinal, Jalen Ramsey was named to the first team All-ACC for the second year in a row, and he would go on to be named a consensus All-American the only year that he would be named it, following his junior year at Florida State, even though he wasn't able to record a single interception in his junior year. They did decide that Jalen Ramsey was a good enough prospect. The Jaguars decided to take him with the 5th overall pick in the 2016 NFL draft. Taking a look at other players taken in that draft, this is when Jared Goff was taken number 1 by the Rams. Carson Wentz was taken 2 by the Eagles. Joey Bosa, the elite defensive end, but for the Chargers, was taken by them when they were in San Diego with the 3rd pick. And even Ezekiel Elliott, the elite starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys, was the 4th overall pick in this draft. Those are the 4 picks before Jalen Ramsey. And the 3 of Joey Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, and Jalen Ramsey are the trio of players that have been named to my elite that were taken in this draft with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th overall picks. And once Jalen Ramsey was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, he would go on to play his first 3 full seasons there before he would eventually get moved. Looking at how Jalen Ramsey's career went in Jacksonville, starting with his rookie season in 2016. In his age 22 season, he would go on to start all 16 games for a Jacksonville Jaguars squad that finished with a 3-13 record that had lost 2 more games than it had won the previous season. This was at the end of Gus Bradley's final season and the beginning of Doug Marrone's first season at Jacksonville. In 2016, as a 22-year-old, Jalen Ramsey would finish with 65 combined tackles on the season, which is actually tied with his age 24 season for the most tackles he's ever put together in a season. He would finish with 2 tackles for loss, not to mention that he would finish with a forced fumble, 14 passes defended, and he would go on to finish with 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6, all in this 2016 season. In the 2016 season, he would go on to make the all-rookie team. This would be the only season in his NFL career, the only full season in which he wasn't necessarily named a Pro Bowler. And at the conclusion of the season, the Jaguars missed the playoffs, but people were fully aware of what Jalen Ramsey could do. Following his first season at Jacksonville, he would come back for his second season in 2017. And in his age 23 season, Jalen Ramsey would go on to start all 16 games for a Jacksonville Jaguars team that finished with a 10-6 record. They won 7 more games than they won their previous season in Doug Marrone's very first season as the Jaguars head coach. In 2017, this is when Jacksonville was known as Saxonville. Jalen Ramsey himself would go on to finish with 63 tackles on the season, just 2 less than he had the previous year. He would go on to finish with 17 passes defended, which is the most he'd ever defend in a season in his career. And he'd finish with 4 interceptions, the most interceptions that Jalen Ramsey would finish a season with in his career as well, at least to date. And in 2013, for the very first time in his NFL career, Jalen Ramsey would go on to be named a Pro Bowler 1, and he would go on to be named to the first team All-Pro in the NFL, meaning that if he wasn't the best cornerback, he was at least the second best corner, especially following his amazing second season in Jacksonville. Following a season in which he was named to the first team All-Pro for the very first team in his career, and they made the playoffs for the first time in his career, the Jaguars would end up beating the Bills in the wild card 10-3 to make it to the divisional playoff round. They would end up beating the Steelers by 3 by a score of 45-42 before they eventually ended up losing the AFC Championship to the New England Patriots. That was the year where the Patriots ended up going to the Super Bowl and losing to the Eagles in Minneapolis. But of course, following the only season in which Jalen Ramsey was able to help the Jaguars make it to the playoffs, he would return for his age 24 season, his third full season in Jacksonville in 2018. In his third season with the Jaguars, he started all 16 games in a season where the Jaguars finished with a 5-11 record. They won 5 less games than they had the previous season. This was Doug Marrone's second full season as the Jaguars head coach. In this season, Jalen Ramsey would be named to the All-Star team for the second consecutive year. He finished with 65 tackles, which is tied for the most he's ever put up in a season with his rookie season. He would also finish with 13 passes defended, the last time he'd ever put up a double-digit amount of passes defended in a season. He also finished with 3 interceptions, the second time in his career he's finished with at least 2, and he has not finished with at least 2 interceptions in a season since 2018. Following his last final season in Jacksonville, like I said, he would be named a Pro Bowler as the Jaguars would yet again miss the playoffs for the second time in his 3 seasons there. His 4th season in Jacksonville would begin in 2019, and in 2019, in Jalen Ramsey's age 25 season, a season in which he would be named a Pro Bowler for the 3rd season in a row. He would start 11 of the 12 games he played for a Jacksonville Jaguars team that finished with a 6-10 record. However, in the 2019 season, he would eventually go on to get traded to the LA Rams in October for a 2020 first-round pick. And then he would also get traded for a 4th-round pick as well, as I guess he really wanted to get out of Jacksonville, but he did find his way into Los Angeles. And by the way, he made it, and by the time he made it to the Rams, he started 11 of the 12 seasons he played that year. He started 3 seasons for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and in the 3 games he played, he finished with 17 tackles, and he also forced a fumble. He would start 8 of the 9 games he played for the remainder of that season with the LA Rams, in a season where the Rams would finish with a 9-7 record. This is the one time that they have missed the playoffs in a full Sean McVay season, but they still finished with a 9-7 record. To look at what he did with the Rams that year, he would go on to finish with 33 tackles in the 9 games he played. He finished with his only interception of the year. Not to mention, he was also able to force a fumble, his second of the season. Looking at what he did for the entire 2019 season, he finished with 50 tackles on the year in 12 games. He did finish with an interception when he played for the Rams, and he also would force 2 fumbles and defend 5 passes. At the end of the 2019 season, he was named to the Pro Bowl for the 3rd year in a row, but this would be the 2nd straight season in which he did not make the playoffs. This, of course, would be followed by the last full season that Jalen Ramsey would play. His age 26 season with the Los Angeles Rams, which would be his very first full season in LA. This, of course, was the season that was impacted by the COVID-19 virus, in the sense that none of the games were necessarily canceled, but of course there were no fans in the stands, and of course that can affect a home field advantage. But regardless, in 2020, Jalen Ramsey started all 15 of the games he played in a season where the LA Rams would finish with a 10-6 record. They would finish 2nd in the NFC West, but they would make the playoffs for the 3rd time in a 5-year stretch. In the 2020 season, in Jalen Ramsey's age 26 season, he would go on to finish with 44 tackles. By that point, the least amount of tackles he's ever put together in a season. He would defend 9 passes, and he would also go on to finish with an interception on the season. At the end of the 2020 season, Jalen Ramsey was named a Pro Bowler for the 4th consecutive season, and that is the last time he's ever been named to a Pro Bowl, because that is the last NFL season that has been completed to date. He was also named to the first team All-Pro for the 2nd time in his NFL career, the first time he's been named to that team since the first time he was named a Pro Bowler. That he's been named a first-team All-Pro twice in his NFL career, showing that at least the first time he did it, it necessarily was not a fluke, and he also did it for the 2nd team that he's been able to do it for. At the conclusion of the 2020 NFL season, Jalen Ramsey would go on to play with the Rams in the playoffs. This is also the season where Aaron Donald won the Defensive Player of the Year for the 2nd time in 3 years. once the Rams made the playoffs, they would end up beating the Seahawks in the divisional round before they lost to the Packers in the divisional round. And the previous time the Rams were in the playoffs before this, they lost 13-3 to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but Jalen Ramsey wasn't a part of that. Following that 2020 season, of course, this leads us to this current season that Jalen Ramsey is currently playing in. Following today's NFL games, especially a game in which Jalen Ramsey has played today, thus far, and also going into the season, Jalen Ramsey also changed his number to number 5 for the very first time, as the NFL allowed all players to pick virtually whatever number they wanted. Thus far this season, as number 5, Jalen Ramsey has started all 7 of the games he's played for a Los Angeles Rams team that currently, at the moment, is nursing a is currently nursing a 5-2 record. Looking at how the NFC has been playing out. And that is how, or they're currently sitting at 6-1. The Rams have been playing incredibly well. Looking at how Jalen Ramsey has been playing, in the 7 games that he's played, he has 41 tackles on the season, which is coming up on his amount of tackles last season when he was named a first-team All-Pro cornerback. He's also sitting at 6 passes defended. He also has 2 interceptions, as he recorded an interception today on his actual birthday. And, of course, that leads us to where we are right now, looking to see where the Rams are going to finish off their season this year. And it's very possible that they could make the playoffs. And Jalen Ramsey is a very big part. Why? I mean, he even has Rams in his name. So that is what Jalen Ramsey's career is looking like as today he turns 27. As of right now, the picture that is being painted is showing a very full and complete cornerback who on his best day can hold some of the best wide receivers in the NFL at check. And considering this is a position where he has to be consistent, the fact that he has been consistent, especially since he's been a Pro Bowler. Even the year he wasn't a Pro Bowler, he still had people turning their heads to look at what he was doing. He most definitely has an argument for being one of the most complete and consistent cornerbacks in the game, which is why I believe people should watch Jalen Ramsey more. If you ever get a chance to watch Jalen Ramsey, he is wearing number 5 for the Los Angeles Rams, so I would definitely get a chance to check him out before his career is said and done, because this is a player that's playing in his prime, and it would be, considering there are so many different players to make it to the NFL in the first place, the fact that this is a player that stands out and has consistently been named to the All-Pro first team should be a reason why you should watch him in the first place. Thanks once again for listening to my piece. I want to thank the NFL and college football pro reference websites. I want to thank the Wikipedia pages for the teams that he played for. And of course, I want to thank the NFL website itself. I want to wish Jalen Ramsey a happy 27th birthday. I hope all is well. And I will catch you all with another episode of The Elite tomorrow on Monday, October 25th, once all of today's episodes are done. And until then, I'll catch you with more then. I'll catch you then. Thanks for listening to my piece, and peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.